And welcome back to Mindset Monday. I'm Gene Zanetti, your coast-to-coast mindset coach from Winning Mindset, bringing you the best available sports-specific mindset training program anywhere in the world. Winning Mindset. Today we're going to talk about the top 10 biggest mental mistakes that athletes make and simple corrections you could make. All right, so I put this whole list together back in 2008 when I started working with athletes, when I started working with teams. Now I've been doing this for over 11 years. We worked with national champion teams and individuals. We worked with Olympic teams. We've worked with UFC fighters. We've had great success from youth right through that professional level. And I could tell you that I could have wrote this now, and it would have been just as true now as when I wrote it back in 2008. But incredible success stories and working with tens and thousands of athletes, not just me, but our 80 mindset coaches coast to coast, right across America. We've worked with people in not every country in the world, but we've worked with athletes across the globe, many different countries, and I can tell you, it holds for them. Any sport, it just works. Okay, so let's go through these top 10 mental mistakes that athletes make in their corrections. And this is also one of the first emails that we send out to people when they're on our email list, because we want to make sure we give you this great information right away. We want to slam you with great information right away. Okay, so top 10 biggest mental mistakes. Number 1, getting involved in the hype, or what I call the fan mentality. That means getting sucked into reading newspapers, social media, forums, records, rankings, seedings, predictions. It's approaching sports as a fan. Okay, now I was the poster boy for this back in high school. I always used to look at the newspaper. I wanted to see my name in the newspaper. I wanted to see who my opponent was next week, who they wrestled up against, what score they beat this person. I like to check the forums because I wanted to know what other people were saying about me and my opponents, and who is predicted to win which weight. I always like to know the brackets, because then I would actually write it out. Okay, if I win, I go here. If I lose, I go down there. Who am I going to go against in the semifinals and the finals? I would think all those kind of things. And one thing you realize, I've noticed with myself, and I noticed with other athletes, you do worse when you focus on all that other stuff. When you approach sports as a fan. Okay, so I always say this. You can either approach sports as a spectator or a participant, right? You're either a fan or you're an athlete, right? You have to pick. You can't be both. You can't stay on both sides of the line. So you got to choose to think like an athlete, like a competitor. If you want to think about all the different newspaper articles, records and rankings, seedings, predictions, do it after the season, okay? You get articles done about you in the season, put them in a shoebox, and then look at them when the season ends. Don't focus on what your opponent's ranked or what they've done in the past, because it's just going to get in your head. You're going to be thinking of extra information. It's not necessary. It has nothing to do at all with the 3 things you could control: your effort, your attitude, and aggressiveness. So throw that out. And social media, it's gotten even worse since 2008 when I wrote this article. Now it's all over. Okay, so when it's playoff time, when it's postseason time, all of your friends are posting pictures on Instagram and Snapchat and all this stuff. So it just adds to this hype and the fan mentality. It just keeps getting worse and worse. So you need to distance yourself from it. LeBron James goes on a blackout during the playoffs. He goes off of social media. Okay, I've seen it hurt some of the best athletes in the world. And then when they changed their mentality, it wound up helping them. Okay, number 2, associating with negative thinkers. Sometimes those people are on your team. Sometimes those people are in your house. They're in your family. They're your friends. They're people you go to class with. And these negative people, sometimes maybe they're just busting your chops. Maybe it's in good fun. Maybe they're jealous. Who knows what it is? But there's always going to be haters, right? Haters going to hate. So, and it's not always necessarily just hating. Maybe it's a coach or a parent who means well, but they just take a more negative approach. In this situation, you got to learn how to distance yourself from those people. You got to learn how to take it too. Okay, you got to develop some thick skin. We can't just put it on the other person. We got to put it on ourselves too. Getting thicker skin, having a good sense of humor. Don't take yourself so serious. So even if you're around negative thinkers, you could just let it go. You could have a sense of humor. You could joke back. So have a plan going into those situations. And then in certain situations, you can distance yourself from them. Okay, you tend to think like your 5 closest friends, right? We tend to be the average of our 3 to 5 closest friends. So surround yourself with positive thinkers. Stay away from the negativity, and especially, again, on your social media, music that you're listening to, TV that you're watching, Netflix, whatever it is, pump positive information into your mind. If you put garbage into your mind, garbage is going to come out. So that goes for everything. That goes with negativity. That goes with immorality. Fill your head with positive information. That's why make sure our podcast, our Winning Mindset podcast, our Winning Mindset YouTube page, all of our social media pages for whatever sport you're in, baseball mindset, lacrosse mindset, volleyball mindset, you name it, we have it. Probably. Make sure you're following us on that because we're constantly pumping great information into your mind. Get away from the negativity. Unfollow people on social media that you know bring you down. And distance yourself from people who are more negative and small-time thinkers. Number 3, biggest mental mistake, making any particular competition special. Okay, so everything is important. Every practice is important. Every competition is important. Nothing special. 9 times out of 10, if you make a competition special, you're going to do worse. Okay, this goes for taking there's a competition, right? You make it into this is a big match or this is a big tournament. We tend to do worse. Same thing in school. We say, this is a big test. I have to do well. As a school psychologist, I saw many people, parents and teachers saying, this kid's not a good standardized test taker, right? This kid's not a test taker. Sometimes that's not true. Sometimes it's just they put the test on a pedestal and they're really making it into a big deal. They're making the test special, and that's why they choke and that's why they do worse. Or it could be if you're asking someone out on a date. If you say to yourself, this person's out of my league. I'm so attracted to this person. We make it special, and what happens? We start getting a little more awkward. We do weird things. We choke. We're not as natural as we normally are because we make it into a big deal. We put it on a pedestal. Same thing with job interviews. Same thing with speaking in front of people. Same thing with reading. It's easy enough to open up a book and start reading. But now if you start reading in front of people, you start saying, okay, this is special. I have to do well. Then we wind up doing worse. So everything's important, but nothing's special. Bruce Springsteen talked about this. When they asked him how does he bring so much great energy to every concert that he's in, he told himself, he said that anytime he's giving a rock concert, he tells himself 2 things. Number 1, it's the most important concert of my life, but it's only rock and roll. So he makes it into a big deal. It's important, but it's only rock and roll, so it's not special, right? Treat it like any other competition. So when you go out there, don't tell yourself, this is it, now or never, do or die, make it or break it, there is no tomorrow. Instead, tell yourself, just do what you do. Be who you are. Just be yourself. You know, you probably heard this. Probably heard this kind of advice from people. Just be yourself, right? That is very good advice. I find that it's a red flag if an athlete before a competition, if they change their personality too much before a competition, red flag. They're probably going to choke. If you're normally a talker and you like to joke around, keep doing that before your competition, right? If you're normally a quieter person, being quieter then, right? So be who you are. That means you got to know who you are and you got to stay there. Okay, you got to stay in that. You got to know what your center is and get to that center all the time. Okay, so don't make anything special. It's all important, nothing special. Treat it all the same. Number 4, believing any opponent that you go against is unbeatable. Nobody has an S on their chest. Everyone can get beat. You're all mortals. I've heard from I think it was an Olympic champ that I heard this from, and he said, you know, you both have a body, you both have a mind, you got your arms, you got your legs. You know, it's not like you get to go into a fight with a knife and they have a gun. In other words, you're on equal playing field. When you step out there in a competition, you have what you have, your opponent has what they have. You're not, one person doesn't have a clear advantage, right? So no one's unbeatable. No one has an S on their chest. Anyone can be beat. And go through history of all sports. There's upsets all the time. There's always upsets. So why not you? Why not you? Why should they win? Right? Why aren't you the one who could pull off the big upset? You can. You can do it. Seriously. The top athletes lose all the time. Sometimes people have a bad day. Sometimes people are sick. Sometimes the referee makes a bad call. Sometimes you do things really well. Sometimes people slip or trip or make a mistake. Anything can happen. So never count yourself out. Anyone can be beat. Nobody has an S on their chest. Don't think that any one of your opponents is unbeatable or any team that you go up against is unbeatable. If this thought starts floating through your mind, what you need to do is you need to start talking to some older, more experienced coaches and athletes and make a long list of big upsets that have happened over the years where the unbeatable team or the unbeatable athlete lost, because it happens all the time in sports. So why not you? No one's unbeatable. No one has an S on their chest. Number 5, biggest mental mistake. And these are in no order, by the way. I should have said that in the beginning of the video. Getting hung up on the past or worrying about the future. So I often say this: the past is history, the future is a mystery, only the present is a gift. Okay? So don't think about the past. What happened in the past, what happened the last time you competed, what happened the last time you competed against this team or individual, what this opponent did in the past, any of their accolades, right? They can't bring their medals with them on the mat. That's what I used to say in wrestling. They can't bring their medals, their accolades, they can't bring it with them on the field in competition, okay? They got to step out there with the same gear that you have, and you compete. So don't get hung up on the past. Also, don't get hung up on the future. What's going to happen if I win? What's going to happen if I lose? What are people going to say if I win? What are people going to say to me if I lose? Who am I going to compete against in the next round of the tournament? No, it's all extra information in your mind. And the past doesn't exist anymore. The future doesn't exist yet. And all you have is the present. The only moment that's ever real is the present. That's why I say you should be spending 70% of your mental energy in the present moment, right? Because a lot of times we're thinking too much about the past, the time that doesn't any longer exist, or we're thinking about the future, which doesn't always turn out exactly the way we think it will be. How many times did we think in a tournament, I'm going to go up against this individual or this team or this athlete, and they get upset, or you get upset, right? So you don't know how the future is going to turn out. Don't think too much about that either. I mean, you got to think about it a little bit, and you got to think about the past a little bit. You got to learn from your mistakes. You got to learn from things you're doing well, but don't dwell on it. 70% of the time, you should be in the present moment. And when you're competing, you should be completely in the present moment. Well, how's that going to happen? That's going to happen by practicing it. You got to practice it in competition, practice it in practice, and throughout your life. So, and you often find this too, that depression is more of a preoccupation with the past, and anxiety is a preoccupation with the future. But in the present, you don't see the same kind of disorders. That's why almost all of therapy psychology is trying to gear you towards being in the present moment. Be aware of the past, be aware of the future, but don't dwell on it. Dwell on the present moment. Okay, number 6, under any circumstances, 6th biggest mental mistake, under any circumstances, use the word can't. And you could even throw the word try into that. Okay, so can't, very few things you can't do. Okay, there's very few things you actually can't do. You can win. You can learn how to do things. You can learn how to master a technique. You can get stronger. You can eat healthier. You can live a better lifestyle. Most of these things are within your reach. It's just a matter of developing virtue. Okay? So stop saying the word can't. Say, I will work on it, or I will get better, or I'm going to improve. Right? So that's one of those things as a coach. Athlete says can't, everyone's down for push-ups. Right? Open up your old dictionary. I know you don't use them anymore. You use your dictionary on the computer or on your phone. So go to your old dictionary, find the page that says can't, rip it right out, and the same thing with the word try. Go into that page, rip it right out of the dictionary. Now don't do that because it's probably an antique now, being in your house for so many years. So keep it there. Don't let it go just yet. Okay. So the word try. That's another one. It's usually a cop-out because we're saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to do this, so I'm going to try. It's a given that you're going to try. Say you're going to do this. I want to do this. I choose to do this. And I'm not saying this you're not trying to say that, you're not looking to say this in an arrogant way. You were just saying, I'm going to do this. We know you're going to try to do it. It's usually just a cop-out. It's soft language. I want to get rid of soft language. I want to toughen up. I want you to harden up. So I'm going to do this. You're not going to try. I will do it. I'm going to. And you find that you're going to be a little bit more hardcore and you're going to get after it. Like I said, it's not a matter of being arrogant. It's a matter of being passionate, and it's about playing to win. Not that we're focusing on winning, but playing to win. 7th biggest mental mistake, dwelling on a setback or a loss. And that goes back to thinking too much about the past, right? Whatever happened in the past, it's done. So my recommendation is after every competition, write down 3 positives, write down 3 negatives, right? So you don't get too high, you don't want to get too low. In fact, one of the things that I noticed my coach Don Ernst did back when I was in high school, when I lost a match, he would usually give me more positives. And when I won a match, he would usually give me more negatives. He wanted to always keep me balanced. Now, don't get me wrong. He gave positives when I won also. He gave negatives when I lost also. But he would try to keep me balanced. You don't want to dwell on a setback, or you don't want to dwell on a loss. Okay? It's best to always think, if you lost, or if you didn't do so well, or if you got hurt, this is the best thing that could have happened to me. Now I'm going to learn from it. Now I have this wealth of knowledge. Okay? So in other words, failure is not final. Failure is feedback. Okay, so the best athletes look at losses, failure, setbacks. They look at it a little bit differently than the average person. They look at it as part of the process. You need to start looking at negatives that happen in your career, or in your, whether it's athletic, academic, social, or just in life, right? You have to look at that as a learning lesson. And you learn to grow virtue. You learn patience. You learn humility. We don't have all the answers, okay? We got to be humble. We got to be coachable. We got to be teachable. So you don't want to dwell on a setback or a loss. So my recommendation, if you lose in a competition, you give yourself the 5-minute rule. Let's say you're in the middle of a tournament, so you still have other matches or other competitions to go. So you lose, you give yourself the 5-minute rule. You're allowed 5 minutes to be upset. This is assuming you're not competing right away. If you're a sport, you're not competing right away. But you give yourself 5 minutes to be upset, and then as a logical, rational human being, you realize you can't go back and change it. You let it go. You extract the lesson and move on. So whether it's a win or whether it's a loss, learn the lesson, extract the lesson from that competition, and move on. Same thing if there's a setback, an injury, whatever it is, extract the lesson and move on. Give yourself 5 minutes to be upset and then let it go because you can't change it. Okay? So you put any of the negativity, if you're in the middle of a tournament, you throw it into an imaginary black box. This has been successful with a lot of people. You throw all that negativity into an imaginary black box and you don't open it until after the competition's over. So now you can start reviewing, well, what went wrong? What could I do differently? You don't want to dwell on a loss. Focus on things within your control, your effort, your attitude, your aggressiveness. 8th biggest mental mistake, focusing exclusively on winning or titles. Now, we all like to win, right? We all want to get those accolades. We all want to get the gold medal, right? We all want to be the varsity athlete, whatever it is that your goal is. You want to win. But when you're focusing too much on winning or titles, again, where's your orientation? In the future or in the present? It's in the future, right? So you don't want to get caught up in thinking about winning or titles. Your best way to control winning, because winning you only have indirect control of. What you have direct control over is your effort, your attitude, and your aggressiveness. If you keep focusing on those 3 things, what's going to happen is you're going to win more, if not immediately, over time. That's what's going to happen. On the other hand, if you're not focused on your effort, attitude, and aggressiveness, what's going to happen is there's going to be more and more losses that come your way, if not right away, over time. That's what's going to happen. So focus on factors within your control. Let go of the things outside of your control. You can say the same thing about school. Don't just focus on getting an A, or don't just focus on making the honor roll or dean's list or all those kind of things. Yes, have that goal. I'm not saying don't post that goal up, make it public, all that. We have a whole series on goal setting, 5-part series on goal setting. Probably at least 15 different lessons, 15 exercises on goal setting. So we're all about having goals. And there is a time and a place to focus on wins and titles. Usually that's when you're feeling tired, bored, lazy, you feel like quitting, or you're getting tempted by peer pressure. That's when you go back to your goal, the winning, right? But when you're in competition, you don't focus on winning. When you're in the middle of taking a test, you don't focus on getting an A. You focus on where you are in the moment. Effort, attitude, aggressiveness. Number 9, biggest mental mistake, competing not to lose. A lot of people are afraid to lose or make mistakes. That's why mindset principle number 3, I even word it in a negative way. Our 3rd mindset principle is I have no fear of losing or making mistakes. Now, normally, I would rather word things in a positive way. But because this is such a common mental mistake, I want it to be very clear. I want people to say explicitly they have no fear of losing or making mistakes. As I said before, The top athletes look at losing very different than average athletes. It's part of the process. You cannot compete while being afraid to lose. Same thing goes when you're speaking in front of a group of people. You're asking someone out on a date. You can't be afraid of getting rejected or getting laughed at. Okay, it might be in the back of your mind. Naturally, none of us like to get embarrassed. None of us like to get laughed at or feel rejected, but you can't let that slow you down. You got to go after it. You compete to win, not because you're afraid to lose. Okay, so keep that in mind. Also, the way we were built as humans, we are goal-seeking by nature. Okay, what happens is, as we grew up, we become fearful of pain, of different things, right? So the fear of pain kind of creeps in, but we are built for success. We're built to be goal-seeking individuals. Okay, we're not built to be fearful. That's our DNA. That's how we're wired. Spirit, mind, and body. We're goal attaining by nature. All right, we're fear of pain because we're all out of whack. Okay, because we're bad life experiences and because of the fall. Okay, so number 10, 10th biggest mental mistake is using extreme self-talk. And I probably said some of this even during the video, which it would be beneficial for me to modify that. But we don't want to say should, have to, need to, ought to, or gotta. And the reason why is because it's extreme language. It puts too much pressure on us. Instead, as I said before, you want to use words like I want to, I choose to, I'm going to. Not you should, you have to, you need to, you ought to, you must, you gotta. Do you hear how that sounds? How many times have you said in a competition, or before a competition, I should beat this person, or this is a must-win game, right? Or I have to win, or I gotta win this one, I gotta do well, right? Instead, it just puts a lot of pressure on you. And instead, it'd be more beneficial to say, I want to do well. I'm going to do well. I choose to do well. Pick one of those and roll with that. Okay? Unless we're speaking about matters of faith and morals, like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. We're talking about morals, right? Those are situations where it's a should, need to, have to, must. But outside of that, we don't have. It's not like that. Okay? When it comes to sports, when it comes to school, it's that you want to do well. You know it's beneficial for you to work as hard as you can to be as successful as possible. That's a want. That's a choose to. That's a I'm going to. That's not a need to, have to, or must. It just puts too much pressure on yourself. And finally, number 11, we want to give you a bonus, and that is mindset mistake number 11, and that is not capitalizing on mindset training. Not having a mindset coach. Trying to go it alone. Okay, you really got to take the bull by the horns in this situation. And if you really want to maximize your potential in sports, also in school and in life, you have a mindset coach. When you're maximizing your strength, when you want to maximize your strength, you get a personal trainer or you get a strength coach. If you want to maximize your technique in a sport, you get a personal coach or you go to a sports club, right? Same thing with school. If you're trying to maximize your potential in school, you go to enrichment classes. You come in for extra help. You get a tutor. It's the same thing with your mindset. If you're really trying to maximize your potential, you're going to work on your mindset. Top athletes will say that sports are about 90% mental, yet they're training 90% physical. So there's a problem there. So if you want to bridge that gap, that's exactly what we do with Winning Mindset. We want to help make you the total package. We don't want to leave it to chance. We want to make sure that at the end of your athletic career, you left no stone unturned for either you or your athlete, your son or daughter who's an athlete, or your team. We want to make sure you left no stone unturned. You gave them the mental edge, and now they have the tools to maximize their potential, not only in sports, but in school and in life. So make sure you sign up for your free trial today for Winning Mindset. Make sure you go to our website, www.zwinningmindset.com. Make sure you check out our Instagram page, Z Winning Mindset. We have all the different Instagram pages, golf mindset, wrestling, martial arts mindset, and on and on and on. Type your sport and in mindset. Also, again, our Facebook page, our Twitter, we're constantly pumping out great information. We post on our Instagram, we post up our link tree, which has our YouTube page, our podcast. You should be listening to that on a regular basis. It's free information that we're just giving to you. But like I said, make sure you're doing our team or individual program. Make sure you buy our book, Developing the Predator Mindset. Our ebook is available right now. The hardcover book is coming out very shortly. So make sure you go to our website, zwinningmindset.com, and make sure you get that book. Every athlete, every serious athlete should read that book. Anyone who's trying to reach their potential, even in school, even in life and in business, whatever it is, read that book because it's going to teach you how to develop the predator mindset and how to avoid the prey mindset. Again, as I always say, whether it's sports, school, or life, mindset makes the difference. We'll see you next week.